Today, we are exploring fascinating and maybe a little bit surprising perspective on the mind body connection called recall healing. While it's still relatively unknown in Ireland, it has already gained recognition in countries like Poland, where I'm from, as well as across Eastern Europe, Canada, the United States, Turkey, and Israel. Recall healing is an approach that connects the body and emotions as a one system. It's based on the idea that symptoms are not random, but might be linked to experiences and emotions that they were not fully processed at the time they happened. So, if emotional shocks can influence biology in the way recall healing suggests, it completely changes how we think about stress, illness, and personal history. In this video, I explain what recall healing means and how this approach understands the connection between memory, emotions, and the body. If you are interested in holistic therapies and health, this content will help you expand your understanding how emotional health and the body might interact together.
You know, there is this very specific feeling that hits you when a strange, persistent physical symptom just shows up out of nowhere. Whether it's a sudden, really sharp pain in your lower back that just refuses to fade, or maybe a chronic migraine that starts totally ruining your afternoons or evening, or even just an unexplained rush. You just sit there and think, I eat well, I sleep enough, I basically take care of myself. So why is my body suddenly turning on me? There is this profound feeling of betrayal because it feels like an unprovoked attack from inside. We are conditioned from childhood to see the body as a complex, high efficient machine. And the rule of any machine is simple, it's supposed to work. So you put petrol or diesel in the car and it goes. So when the body doesn't work, we assume there's a breakdown, a malfunction. And because we see it as a mechanical failure, our instinct is to go to war against the symptom. We want to eradicate the symptoms as quickly as possible. Of course, we want to numb the pain, suppress the inflammation, or even cut out the offending tissues so we can get back to normal life. And under that old paradigm, it makes sense. But what if that entire framework is upside down? What if that persistent ache or even sudden illness isn't your body breaking down at all? What if it's actually your body acting as a very dedicated messenger, just trying to deliver something very important? That's the topic we are exploring today. Welcome to AHA Channel. To keep us on track, here is our roadmap for today. I will very briefly introduce the founder of Recall Healing and explain why, in this approach, the body is seen as a messenger rather than the enemy. We will explore the meaning of the word recall and healing, of course, in this approach, break down the three step conflict process, talk about why awareness alone is often not enough, and look how this method encourages a completely different relationship with the body. Let's start. Recall healing is a method founded by the French Canadian doctor Gilbert Renaud. He used to be a professional dancer, but after 7 years of dancing and dealing with many injuries, he became interested in natural healing methods. I think his parents wanted him to be an accountant, but Gilbert thought it was really, really boring. Eventually, he studied massage therapy, traditional Chinese medicine, and later became a naturopath. He studied German New Medicine with Dr. Hammer and then later Total Biology with Dr. Claude Sabin. Over the years, he combined all of his knowledge with his own clinical experience, and eventually he developed what is known as recall healing. He has been working with these methods for more than 35 years.
Let's see how the founder of recall healing explains it. In recall healing, the focus is on identifying and resolving the emotional conflict or trauma that might underline a symptom or behavior. At the core of recall healing is an idea that the body is never the enemy. Surprise? The body is a messenger. Now, just think about that for a second because it completely changes how we usually handle physical symptoms, right? Normally, we get sick, we feel pain, and we feel let down by our bodies, right? We treat it like a broken machine that we just have to fight. Symptoms are not random mistakes or meaningless malfunctions. According to this framework, they are intelligent responses pointing towards unresolved experiences. So basically, your body is responding to emotional stress that your mind didn't get a chance to process fully at the time it happened. Conventional medicine focuses on suppressing symptoms. So you have inflammation, reduces, pain, numb it, rash, calm it down, preferably with some steroids. And don't get me wrong, of course, symptom relief matters, but recall healing asks a deeper question. What if the symptom itself is carrying an information? Think of your symptom as a massive clue, literally like a flashing light on your car's dashboard. I'm going to give you an example so we can understand better. Think of your body like a city's power grid during a massive storm. To stop the entire system from collapsing, the grid might intentionally shut down certain neighborhoods to protect essential infrastructure. That shutdown isn't a failure, it's survival. Recall healing suggests that the nervous system works similarly during overwhelming emotional shock. If the experience is too intense to process consciously, the body suppresses parts of the emotional response to help you survive and continue functioning. Days, months, or even years later, when the life finally calms down, the body might begin trying to restore power to those shut down emotional areas. And that process can create friction, pain, fatigue, inflammation, physical symptoms. So, from this perspective, the symptom is not betrayal, it's communication. Now, I want to be super clear that recall healing does not claim to replace medicine or instantly cure any disease. And that distinction matters. Recall healing works alongside conventional medicine or most of the available therapies. It is a supportive and complementary modality focused on emotional awareness, nervous system regulation, and understanding possible mind body connections. It's a process that, when done properly, can shift how the person perceives their experience. And that creates the space for new responses, which over time can beautifully support your body's own natural healing systems. We really need to get our core terms straight here. So let's start with the word recall. On the surface, Our standard everyday definition just means to bring back, remember, or retrieve. Remembering a name you forgot, recalling what you did yesterday, or even a company officially withdrawing a faulty product. It's just a simple act of retrieval. But here is where it gets more specific. In this particular method, recall isn't just casually remembering something. It is an intense active process. We are talking about bringing pushed out, totally unprocessed moment of massive stress or shock. In recall healing, we call that conflict, right back into our conscious awareness. It's like pulling a deeply buried emotional trauma bag into the light because your body holds on to these unresolved experiences. Even your conscious mind has completely wiped them off from memory. Think also about product recall. So, for example, if a car manufacturer discovers a dangerous defect, they don't just warn people about it. They bring the vehicle back to the factory to remove the faulty mechanism. Recall healing proposes something similar, but emotionally. A traumatic experience might install a survival response that helps in the moment, but later it becomes harmful if it remains unresolved. The goal is to consciously recall that emotional pattern, bring it back into awareness, and then finally process it safely through a variety of recall healing tools. And similarly, let's look at the word healing. The standard definition usually refers to the physical or emotional process of wound repairing itself. We think of a cut closing up, bouncing back from an illness, or just having difficult feelings finally settle down. But here in recall healing, of course, healing goes way deeper. It's defined as integration, as returning to the state of balance. And this is a really crucial contrast. It's not just fixing the surface, it's not just making the pain vanish. It's about resolving that hidden underlying conflict so that your body literally doesn't have the need to express it anymore. It is totally focused on invisible root rather than the visible branch. Remember, the symptom is the messenger. So, true healing means addressing the root message so the messenger can finally clock out. Let's see how invisible emotion moves to a physical reality. There is a really specific three-step process for how a psychological shock turns into a physical symptom. So it all kicks off with an initiating event. There is a severe stressor, some kind of conflict or an emotional shock that just hits suddenly. It completely overwhelms your mind's ability to cope in that split second. It's quite literally just too much to process. The emotion doesn't get resolved because it is so strong. There is absolutely no safe space to name it or truly feel it. So you keep it to yourself. It gets pushed aside and stays in the background. One of the core ideas in this framework is that the conscious mind can forget, but the body continues holding the unresolved emotional charge. Probably you heard about cellular memory. Think of the conscious mind as a temporary memory, while the body acts like a long term hard drive. If an emotional shock overwhelms your ability to cope, the system stores it somewhere deeper. The body then carries what the mind couldn't fully process. It doesn't just vanish, because as humans, we are absolute experts at avoidance. So The mind basically sweeps it under the rug just to help you to survive the immediate moment. It leaves the emotion totally stuck or frozen in the unconscious background, your body. And that unresolved emotional file might stay dormant for years until something's triggered. It can be anything like a specific smell, season of the year, a relationship that reminds you something, a tone of voice, a specific situation, or just simply a moment when your body finally feels safe enough to process it. The body responds with a physical symptom, sometimes immediately, but mostly this often happens days, weeks, or even months after that first shock. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the framework. I wonder if you notice that symptoms often appear after a stressful period is over, when the stress finally drops, once you are actually out of danger, not during the crisis, after it. Think about someone surviving a very difficult divorce, financial collapse, caregiving burnout, or just years of chronic stress. During survival mode, the nervous system prioritizes immediate functioning. So the body suppresses exhaustion and emotion processing because survival comes first, right? But once the danger passes, the body finally has the space to begin repair. And that repair process can feel like illness, can be very, very unpleasant. It's kind of similar when, for example, you hurt your ankle while running away from a wild animal, a bear, for example. You feel less pain because the hormones just keeps you going while running. You want to survive. You really, really feel the pain once you reach safety. Or another situation, for example, when you're fighting for your life after being attacked. In biology, the body allows the pain or physical symptom when survival is no longer the priority. In recall healing, it is called the recovery phase, but obviously it's not pleasant, but that's the time the body starts repairing itself. People generally can endure incredible things, incredible pain, if their survival depends on it. There's a well known video that comes to my mind. The paraglider's passenger, after taking off, realized that his harness hasn't been fastened at all. So he hangs on for around, I think, 2 minutes, just gripping the metal bar. It was so tough, probably normally he wouldn't be able to hang for that long, but his life depended on it. So as a result, he suffered serious injuries, serious damage to his biceps. I think he tore on it completely. And then, when finally letting it go close to the ground, he just, I think, broke his wrist, but he survived. Recall healing makes also an important distinction. Just suppressing symptoms is not the same as resolving the underlying emotional conflict. Unfortunately, awareness alone isn't enough in most of the cases. Simply understanding where something began intellectually doesn't automatically heal it. How do we actually reach resolution so? Now you might think, okay, I figured out my frozen emotion. I had my aha moment. I'm good to go. While reconnecting with unconscious definitely creates the conditions for change, awareness alone is simply not enough. You can't just notice the buried shock, you have to actively do something about it. It demands proactive resolution for that exact problem that got frozen in time. Healing requires emotional integration. Of course, you have to understand what happened and recognize how it impacted you. But crucially, you have to allow that frozen emotional energy to finally move, not avoiding the memory, not fighting it, not pretending it never happened, but safely revisiting it, understanding it, and allowing the nervous system to recognize the danger is over now. And again, the key is to understand the root cause and allow to be resolved by finding a solution to your problem. You are transitioning from being disconnected by that trauma right back to a state of balance. Recall healing describes unresolved trauma as frozen emotional energy. It's like pressing pause on the explosion midair. So the emotional charge never fully completed its cycle. Healing means allowing that frozen response to move again instead of spending years unconsciously holding it in place. That's why healing here is viewed less as fixing a problem or symptom and more as restoring internal communication. The idea is that your emotional experiences may influence your biology more deeply than you realize. Ultimately, this framework invites a completely different relationship with physical symptoms. Instead of immediately asking, how do I fight this? It asks, what might my body be trying to communicate? That shift alone can completely change how people experience stress, healing, and self awareness. Recall healing does not offer a single simple answer, but a different way of looking at symptoms and their possible origins. It is mainly about understanding how emotional experiences might be connected to what happens in the body. So, to wrap it up, I want to leave you with a simple question to think about regarding your own mind body connection. Based on everything I just said, if your body is acting as a messenger right now, what unresolved emotion might it be trying to tell you about? Take a second and listen to the clues. Thank you for joining me today. Stay curious, keep questioning, and keep listening to your body. See you soon.